Hi, I'm Glenn Huey,
And I'm Chuck Bender, and we are with 360 Woodworking.
and today we're going to talk about tape measures. Hey, if you take a look at the tapes we have on the bench in front of us, you can see a god-awful different amount.
And there's a ton more than just what we have here.
Absolutely there are. And these range in a whole variation of widths of the tape and lengths, and they kind of correspond with each other. This little one, this is about a 1/4 inch wide tape. It's about 5 to 6 feet in length. This is a 1/2 inch, and it gets longer as it gets wider. This is 3/4, you'll find them 16 to 20 feet. This is about an inch wide tape. It goes up to 25 feet, give or take 20, 25 feet.
And then you've
depending.
got those real wide ones that you can find all the way up to 50 feet.
Right, and as far as what we like on these, we both have pretty much the same opinion. Why don't you share with it?
My first thought is, this one's pretty useless.
Well, it's not necessarily useless. My wife carries one of those in her purse, and I find it perfect when I'm out with her and I need to measure something in the...
So the key there is to always take your wife with you, because that's much easier than putting one of these in your pocket.
Absolutely.
But I started out with using about a 1/2 inch wide, 10 or 12 foot long tape. And honestly, in a shop where you're building furniture size projects, 10 to 16 feet, plenty of length. If you want a tape that's a little bit more versatile, if you're going to be doing some carpentry projects around your house, you might consider going up to a 25. But you know, let's face it, I mean, in the shop, you're not building pieces of furniture that are over 10 feet in length. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to go along with the same thing. I'm going to take a 16 foot, give or take, but I'm really looking for a 3/4 inch wide tape, because that way it's easy for me to carry in my hand. It fits a lot better.
Right.
And they got a clip on them bad boys.
Those 1 inch ones are pretty bulky. Yeah.
I like the clip because it goes right into my pocket.
Yep. And that's something, you know, for me, I learned early on in my career that if I clip that thing to my pocket, that's usually when something has just gotten its finish on there and I walk by and leave a nice scratch mark in it. So that's another reason for me to go with a 3/4 inch one, because I don't clip it to my pocket, I slide it all the way down in. So I don't end up scratching things. And as Glenn pointed out, there are a lot of tapes, and I'm sure, just like me and Glenn, you've got a bunch of them in your shop. The key to this whole process is whichever tape you pick up and start using on a project, use that one all the way through, because they do vary from tape to tape.
Yep.
In fact, when I had my school, the Acanthus Workshop, I had students come in there, they would measure something with their tape in at the workbench, leave the tape on the bench, go into the machine room, borrow somebody else's tape, cut it, and then take the piece in, and they find out they're 1/8 of an inch short. So,
Not a good thing. Well, where my
consistency.
where my questions always come from on the tape are the piece that's on the end.
Right.
That little bit that's added to it. People come up and they say, hey, it's loose, it's shaking back and forth. Well, there's a reason for that, and it's supposed to do that. All right, the idea is, as I butt this up against a piece to take a measurement, such in this case I'm reading 9 13/16, as I hook that in and pull out, that little bit of slop in there is equal to the thickness of that hook. And that means that when I hook again, I am again reading exactly the same 9 13/16. So it's good to have this thing move.
in fact, if it doesn't, it's time to get a new tape measure.
So another thing that we want to take a quick look at here, and this came up when we were talking about how we each use a tape, is there's a couple different camps you can be in. And I happen to be one camp and Chuck happens to be another. And the way I use the tape, I'm going to move some of these out of the way so you get a better look. I'm going to grab this, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to take this in my right hand, I'm going to hook on this side, and then I'm going to hold that tape and pull out my pencil and mark at 6 inches. And that's how I do it. Chuck's got a little bit different.
Exactly. I write right-handed, just like Glenn. I quite often hold it in my left hand, because that way I don't have to transfer back and forth. And if I wanted to mark 6, I'm going to put it on here, come up, and then mark my 6. I'm reading it upside down, but I don't have to switch my hands. I don't have to cross over and worry about the end of the tape bobbling. And, you know, so
They both work.
they both work.
It's just what you get used to.
Right, and that's also why a few years back they came with right-handed tapes that are actually the other way around.
Yeah, printed upside down.
Yep.
So another area we want to talk about is the whole idea of getting accurate measurements. And if you read and hear things, you generally hear people talk about you should bite an inch. And by bite, they mean to take 1 inch off. And you can get a more accurate measurement because you're sitting exactly at that 1 inch mark. You're not relying on the hook, which can be bent.
Sure, I mean, if you knock a tape off onto the floor, it could bend that thing, or if you step on it, or
Yeah, any number of reasons. So if you're looking for accuracy, my first thought is if you're looking for that kind of accuracy, use a steel rule. But if you're destined to use a tape, then you want to bite 1 inch. And this is fun for me because when I was doing construction with my dad, we would be a 2-person crew putting on siding. I would be up giving the measurements down. Dad would be the guy cutting. And he would bite 1 inch, roll down and make the mark exactly at the size that I said, send it up to me, and you know what was wrong?
it was 1 inch short.
Absolutely, time and time again. So to compound that and to still be able to bite 1 inch, Chuck's got an idea for you.
Yeah. If you find that you are constantly cutting things 1 inch short by holding at that 1 inch mark, hold at the 10 inch mark. And that way, if you're going to hold at 10 and mark out to the 6 inch mark there, just add 6 to 10 and come up with 16. The end numbers stay the same. You know, it's super simple and easy. And if you end up cutting things 10 inches too short, it's time to take up finger painting.
So we talked back at the beginning about the wider tapes and how a wider tape is sometimes better, sometimes not. What I find with a wide tape is you can extend it out a lot further before it actually snaps down.
So what's that got to do with anything in the shop?
Well, nothing. It's just a lot of fun. Hey, we'll see you at the woodworking shows.